The 7 species of the Vega Consortium gathered in the Grand Hall of Harmonies. Their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some floated on anti-gravity disks, others slithered on multiple appendages, while a few resembled walking crystals that chimed with each step. They debated the same tired topic that surfaced every decade or so, the supposed existence of humans. "These creatures are nothing but ghost stories," declared High Commander Nix, his blue scales shimmering under the hall's lights. "Tales to frighten younglings into proper behavior." Director Tay stood silently at first, his slender frame and pale features marking him as a member of the Lumi species. Unlike most of his kind who preferred theoretical research, Tay had always been drawn to field exploration. He stepped forward, his white eyes blinking slowly. "The historical records show consistent patterns," Tay countered. "Too consistent for a mere fantasy." The same bipedal form described across 17 different ancient civilizations. The same planet of origin, a blue world with one moon. "Records corrupted by time," scoffed Councillor Vex, her tentacles waving dismissively. "We've searched the coordinates mentioned in those records for centuries. This Earth doesn't exist." Tay knew better than to push further. The Council had made up its mind long ago. Humans were myths, dangerous ones that distracted from real threats like the expanding void rifts on the edge of known space. 3 days later, Tai's research vessel hovered beside an ancient derelict ship discovered floating near the Crimson Nebula. The ship's design matched no known civilization, its hull made of primitive metals rather than the living alloys used throughout the consortium. "Life support system stable," reported Jin, Tai's research assistant, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "We can board safely, but there's something strange about the energy readings." Tai nodded, adjusting his encounter suit. "Keep the engines hot. If anything feels wrong, we leave immediately." The interior of the derelict was a maze of narrow corridors and small compartments. Most areas had been stripped bare or destroyed by some ancient conflict. The ship's technology was laughably primitive. Physical switches and buttons instead of neural interfaces, metal doors that slid rather than phased. "Director, you need to see this." Jin's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Section Delta, 3rd chamber." When Tay arrived, Jin stood before a sealed door, her scanner displaying unusual readings. "There's a power source still active behind this barrier. It's been running for at least 2 centuries. With careful precision, they bypassed the ancient security system. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a small chamber bathed in soft blue light. In the center floated a transparent pod, and inside, "By the 7 stars," whispered Jin. Being lay suspended in clear fluid, bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, soft-looking external tissue covering its form, a thatch of dark filaments on its head, its face eerily similar to Tay's own, yet different in crucial ways. Rounded ears, a protruding nasal structure, and closed eyes with visible lids. "It's a human," Tay said, his voice barely audible. "It has to be." Jin approached the pod cautiously. "Is it alive?" Before Tay could answer, the ship's AI chimed an alert. "Director, long-range sensors have detected unusual activity near Spatial Sector 9 Alpha." "Show me," Tay commanded. A holographic display appeared before them. At first, it seemed to show ordinary space, the familiar stars and cosmic dust of the outer territories. Then, like water breaking through a dam, a tear appeared in the fabric of space itself. Not a natural phenomenon, but a controlled rift. Through this impossible opening came ships. Not 1 or 2, but hundreds, then thousands. They emerged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver against the darkness. No consortium vessel could move with such precision. It was as if they shared a single mind. "The design," Jin gasped. "It matches components from this derelict." Tay's mind raced. The ships weren't using standard propulsion, no ion trails, no quantum bubbles. They simply moved, defying known physics. Their trajectory was unmistakable, straight toward the heart of consortium space. The implications hit Tay like a gravity surge. This wasn't random, this wasn't exploration. This was a coordinated approach by a force the consortium had dismissed as mythology. "Jin, secure that pod." We're taking it with us. Tay activated his emergency channel to Consortium Command. Priority Alpha, I need immediate connection to the High Council. Sir, Jin pointed at the pod's control panel, where symbols began flashing. I think it's waking up. The being's eyes remained closed, but monitoring equipment showed increasing neural activity. Whatever preservation technology had kept it suspended was responding to their presence. Tay made his decision. Alert the Council, he ordered Jin as they raced back to their ship, the precious discovery secure in a portable field. Tell them exactly what we found and what's coming. Tell them the myths have become reality. As their research vessel detached from the derelict, Tay watched the holographic display tracking the Armada's approach. He wondered what force could have preserved a species supposedly extinct for millennia. More importantly, he wondered what had brought them back, and whether the Consortium would survive their return. The emergency alarms throughout the Vega Consortium's central hub hadn't stopped wailing for 3 days straight. Diplomatic channels buzzed with panicked communications between the 7 member species as they watched the unknown Armada methodically advance through their outer defense network without firing a single shot. Military Commander Jun stood before the tactical display, his 4-fingered hands clasped behind his back. His species, the Turak, were known for their strategic minds and unwavering discipline, traits that had earned him the Consortium's highest military position. But even his stoic features couldn't hide the concern etched across his grey-ridged face. They've bypassed another sensor array, reported a junior officer. They're not destroying anything, just ignoring our technology as if it's not even there. Because to them, it probably isn't, Director Tay said, entering the command center with quick strides. Dark circles under his white eyes showed he hadn't rested since returning with his discovery. Jun frowned at the scientist's presence. This is a military matter now, Director. Your input is not required. My input is the only thing standing between us and potential extinction, Tay countered, gesturing toward the display. Those ships match the design elements of the derelict I explored. The preserved being we found is definitely of the same species commanding that fleet. We need to attempt communication before you start a war we cannot win. You suggest we do nothing while an invasion force approaches? Jun's voice rose, the ridges on his neck flaring with anger. I suggest we acknowledge that any civilization capable of creating controlled spatial rifts could have destroyed us already, if that was their intention. Tay pulled up his research data on a nearby screen. The human we recovered. Do not call it that, Jun interrupted. These humans are legends, horror stories. The horror story is preparing to knock on our door, Tay said quietly, and I've been analyzing their communications. They're speaking to each other, not trying to hide their signals. They want us to hear them. The council representatives watching. So the exchange murmured among themselves. Finally, Elder Pax, the oldest living member of the crystalline luminar species, stepped forward. What does Director Tay propose? Her voice chimed like delicate bells. Tay didn't hesitate. Send me. Let me establish first contact with a small vessel. No weapons, no threats, just communication. Madness, Jun hissed. Perhaps, Elder Pax agreed, but wisdom often appears as madness at first glance. Her crystal form reflected the tactical displays in countless tiny facets. Prepare a diplomatic vessel. Aboard the Earth flagship Resilience, Admiral Hune stood on the bridge observation deck watching the stars. At 53, she was relatively young for her position, but there wasn't a soul in the fleet who questioned her authority. Her family line traced directly back to the Exodus. She carried the blood of those who'd escaped when the aliens tried to wipe humanity from existence. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency around her. Unlike the chaotic command centers portrayed in ancient films, modern human ships operated with minimal verbal communication. Neural interfaces linked the crew in ways their ancestors could only dream about, sharing information at the speed of thought. Lieutenant Day approached, his uniform bearing the insignia of communications. Admiral, we're detecting a small vessel, approaching under minimal power. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It appears to be a greeting, Yan nodded. Show me. The view screen displayed a sleek, silver craft about the size of a shuttle. It bore the markings of the Vega Consortium, the same organization that had once calculated that humanity's existence posed an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. "They're sending a diplomat," she said, a cold smile touching her lips. "How?" "Civilized of them." Captain Wan, her second-in-command, joined her at the viewport. "Your orders?" "Allow them to approach. Scanning protocols at maximum." Hyun turned to address her bridge crew, all watching her expectantly. "Remember your history. 5 centuries ago, their ancestors used predictive algorithms to determine our species was too dangerous to exist. They didn't bother learning about us. They didn't attempt communication. They simply decided we needed to be erased." The crew's faces hardened with grim understanding. Humanity had survived by fleeing into uncharted space, developing technologies their would-be executioners couldn't imagine. For centuries they'd built and planned, carefully hidden from galactic society. "We're not here for revenge," Hyun continued, her voice softening slightly. "But we will have justice. We will reclaim our place among the stars, and we will ensure no other emerging species faces what we did." The small alien vessel grew larger on the view screen, now clearly visible against the backdrop of stars. "Interesting," Lieutenant Day said, reviewing the sensor data. "The pilot appears to be the same individual who discovered our stasis pod on the Pathfinder wreckage, a scientist, not a military officer." "Brave," Hyun acknowledged. "Or desperate." She made her decision. "Bring them aboard, full diplomatic protocols." She straightened her uniform. It's time they learned what humanity truly stands for, and what we won't stand for ever again. The massive docking bay of the Resilience swallowed, the tiny alien ship like a whale consuming a minnow. As pressure equalized and gravity stabilized, Hyun prepared to meet the first official representative of the civilization that had once tried to eliminate her entire species. History was about to be rewritten, and she would hold the pen. The Moon had no name, just a designation, VCM 2971. Its surface was a wasteland of grey dust and sharp rocks, with no atmosphere to soften the harsh divide between light and shadow. In this desolate place, 2 shuttles descended from opposite directions, kicking up plumes of dust that hung unnaturally in the low gravity. Director Tay stepped carefully down the ramp of the consortium vessel, accompanied by 2 assistants and a security detail that Commander June had insisted upon. The humans had already arrived, setting up a simple dome structure at the designated meeting point. Tay couldn't help but admire their efficiency. "Remember," he told his team, "we're here to listen first. The future of the consortium depends on this conversation." Inside the dome, environmental systems hummed quietly, creating a neutral atmosphere breathable by both species. Admiral Hyun waited at a simple table with 3 other humans. Tay noted their diversity, different skin tones, facial structures, and builds yet unmistakably the same species as the preserved body from the derelict ship. "Director Tay," Hyun acknowledged with a slight nod. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Admiral," Tay responded, settling into a seat designed to accommodate multiple body types. "I hope we can reach an understanding that benefits both our peoples." Hyun's expression remained neutral. "Let's start with truth. Something your consortium has been avoiding for 5 centuries. She activated a holographic display showing an ancient star chart. This was Earth, our homeworld. 527 years ago, the precursor to your consortium, the Galactic Evaluation Council, sent ships to our solar system. We believed it was first contact. It was actually an extermination force. The display shifted, showing primitive space vessels under attack from advanced ships, bearing markings similar to current consortium designs. "That's impossible," one of Tay's assistants protested. "Our histories record no such." "Your histories were rewritten," Hyun cut in sharply. "The Evaluation Council determined, based on observation of our conflicts and resource usage, that humanity had a 96.7% probability of becoming an interstellar threat within 3 centuries. Rather than contact us, rather than give us a chance to disprove their models, they chose preemptive genocide." Tay felt sick. If this is true, how did you survive? A faction within the Council warned us, Hyun explained. A species called... The Lithani believed the prediction models were flawed. They helped a fraction of humanity escape through experimental warp technology. We've been hiding, building, and waiting ever since. The dome fell silent as Tay absorbed this information. It matched gaps in consortium historical records he'd always found suspicious. I believe you, he finally said. But why return now? Why? Risk exposure after successfully hiding for centuries? Hyun's eyes hardened. Because we discovered something your consortium has been hiding. She activated another holographic display showing a lush green planet. Nexus Colony. Registered as a consortium agricultural world with a native labor species called Terrans. The display zoomed in to show settlements where humanoid figures worked fields under the supervision of alien overseers. Tay leaned forward, shocked at their clear resemblance to the humans sitting across from him. Those aren't native aliens, Hyun continued. Those are humans, descendants of an escape ship that crashed on Nexus 3 centuries ago. Your people found them, recognized what they were, and instead of eliminating them as your protocols would demand, someone made a different choice. They classified them as a primitive native species and turned them into slaves. That can't be right, Tay whispered, though deep down he suspected it was. The consortium's bureaucracy and species-based hierarchy made such a cover-up possible. We have proof, Hyun said coldly. She gestured to one of her officers who placed a data crystal on the table. DNA scans, historical records erased from public archives but preserved in military databases, communications between consortium officials discussing the Terran problem and how to prevent information about their true nature from spreading. Tay examined the evidence with growing horror. The data was genuine. Somewhere in the consortium's vast bureaucracy, officials had discovered human survivors, hidden the truth, and exploited them for generations. How did you find them? He asked. We've had scouts searching for centuries, Hyun explained, looking for any humans who might have escaped the purge. 3 months ago, one of our deep cover agents identified genetic markers in the Nexus agricultural reports that could only belong to human descendants. She stood up, her posture shifting from diplomatic to commanding. Now you understand why we've returned, not for vengeance against the consortium, but for justice for our lost people. Hyun placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. We've come for our people, she stated firmly, with or without your cooperation. Tay felt the weight of centuries of deception pressing down on him. His people hadn't just tried to erase humanity, they'd enslaved the survivors and buried the evidence. How many on Nexus? He asked quietly. Nearly 40,000 human descendants, Hyun replied, living in ignorance of their heritage, treated as property. Tay made his decision. You'll have my cooperation, Admiral, but the consortium leadership is fragmented. Some will resist acknowledging this truth, let alone allowing you to reclaim your people. We expected resistance, Hyun said, her voice softening slightly. That's why we brought 5,000 ships. As if to emphasize her point, the dome briefly darkened as something massive passed overhead. One of the human capital ships moving into orbit around the barren moon, its shadow a stark reminder of how the balance of power had shifted. The Grand Council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives of the 7 species shouted over each other. Elder Pax's crystalline form vibrated with distress, sending shimmering light patterns across the walls as she tried to restore order. Silence, she finally commanded, her harmonic voice cutting through the noise. We face the greatest crisis in consortium history. We will address it with dignity. Director Tay stood at the evidence podium, displays hovering around him, showing the damning historical records he'd verified since the moon meeting. His findings had split the consortium down the middle. The records are authentic, he stated, firmly. 5 centuries ago, our predecessors attempted to exterminate a developing species based solely on predictive models. Those who survived were later discovered and enslaved on Nexus, their identity hidden through deliberate classification fraud. The Malovian representative, a massive amphibian being, slammed his webbed hand down. These humans were deemed a threat by the wisest minds of that era. The prediction models showed they would destroy everything in their path. The same models that have failed to predict 9 major galactic events in the last century? Countered the Talari delegate, her insectoid mandibles clicking with agitation. Models we ourselves have revised 12 times. The debate raged for hours before Elder Pax called for a vote. The results confirmed what everyone feared. 3 species voted to acknowledge humanity's rights and return the Nexus colonists, while 4 prepared for military action. "We've never been divided on a major policy before," whispered Jin, standing beside Tay as they left the chamber. "What happens now?" Tay's expression was grim. "Now we choose sides. In orbit around Nexus, 12 human ships materialized without warning, appearing inside the planet's defensive shield network, something that should have been physically impossible. The consortium defense fleet scrambled to respond, but found their weapon systems suddenly offline. Admiral Hyun directed operations from the command center of the Resilience. Holographic displays showed teams of human specialists landing near the largest labor camps, where their lost kin had been imprisoned for generations. "Defense platforms neutralized," reported Captain Won. "Their ships are retreating to minimum. Safe distance," Hyun nodded. "Begin Phase 2. Remember, we're here as liberators, not conquerors." On the planet's surface, Dai led the first contact team approaching the largest settlement. The humans of Nexus stared in shock at their visitors, people who looked like them, yet wore strange uniforms and carried advanced equipment. An older man with weathered skin stepped forward from the crowd. "The overseers said more Sky people would come. Are you here to take us to another work site?" Day removed his helmet completely, revealing his face, so similar to theirs. "We're not here to take you to work, we're here to take you home." Confusion spread through the gathered colonists. A young woman pushed forward. "What do you mean? This is our home." "No," Day said gently. "This is where you were trapped. We're your family. Your ancestors escaped from Earth generations ago, just like yours did. But your ship crashed here, and the consortium hid the truth from you." He activated a holographic display showing Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown landmasses. Many in the crowd gasped. "This is the homeworld in the old stories," the elder whispered. "The overseers told us it was just myths." "Those weren't myths," Day explained. "They were memories." Deep in the consortium archives, Tay and a small team of like-minded researchers worked frantically to recover corrupted historical records. The room was filled with ancient data cores and preservation units rarely accessed by modern scholars. "Look at this," called one researcher, a young luminar whose crystal form glowed with excitement. "Population statistics from before the human containment project. They didn't just try to eliminate the species, they erased every record of their existence." Tay examined the recovered data. "This proves the Evaluation Council falsified their own prediction models. The humans weren't an imminent threat. They were developing too quickly for the Council's comfort." A security alert flashed on his comm. "Unit. Director, military forces are mobilizing. Commander June has ordered the recapture of Nexus." In orbit around Nexus, 3 consortium battlecruisers approached the human vessels, weapons charged. Inside the lead ship, Commander June watched with cold determination. "Fire when in range," he ordered. "These humans have violated sovereign consortium space." "Sir," his tactical officer responded nervously, "their technology far exceeds our understanding. Perhaps negotiations." "Fire," June demanded. The battlecruisers launched a coordinated assault and watched in disbelief as their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they weren't physically present. Before they could process what had happened, a soft hum filled their command deck. The air shimmered, and suddenly 20 human soldiers stood on the bridge, having bypassed every security system on the ship. Their weapons weren't drawn. Instead, one officer stepped forward, her helmet dissolving to reveal her face. "Your ship has been secured," she stated calmly. "Your crew is unharmed." "Impossible," June whispered. "No teleportation technology can penetrate military shields. We don't use teleportation," she replied. "Phase shifting is more efficient." Throughout the ship, the same scene repeated as human teams secured critical systems without firing a shot. Across the consortium fleet, commanders reported the same impossible breach, humans appearing inside secure locations, neutralizing resistance, with weapons that caused temporary paralysis rather than injury. 2 days later, Commander June sat in a detention cell aboard the Resilience. The door slid open to admit Admiral Hyun. "Your technology," June said bitterly. "How is this possible? Ships that phase through matter, weapons that disable without harm, even communication between your forces faster than light should allow?" 500 years of development hidden from sight, Hyun answered simply. "When your ancestors tried to destroy us, they forced us to become something new. You should have destroyed us when you had the chance," June growled. "That's what we would have done." Hyun's expression remained calm. "And that's why we're different. We could have chosen vengeance," she told the captured consortium leader. "Instead, we chose justice." She showed him footage of the Nexus liberation, thousands of human descendants learning their true history, receiving medical care, being offered passage to human settlements. "The people of Nexus are free to choose their own path now, Hyun, and just as your people must choose yours, war or peace. But either way, humanity is here to stay." The 4 hardline species of the consortium gathered their fleets in secret, using an ancient communication network that bypassed standard channels. Commander June had escaped human custody during a transfer operation, a calculated move by certain factions who saw him as their last hope against the human threat. "We have one chance," June told the assembled fleet commanders, his face haggard from days without rest. "Their main armada is concentrated around Nexus. Their defenses will be weakest at their command ship." The plan was desperate but straightforward. A massive coordinated strike against the Resilience, using experimental weapons developed in hidden research facilities. If they could capture or destroy the human flagship and its admiral, perhaps the rest of the human forces would retreat. 300 consortium warships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously, surrounding the Resilience in a perfect sphere of destruction. The human vessel hung against the backdrop of stars, seemingly unaware or unconcerned about the overwhelming force arrayed against it. "Open fire," June commanded from his flagship. Energy weapons, gravitational disruptors, and molecular destabilizers, the key. Most advanced weapons in the consortium arsenal, all converged on the human vessel. The light show was spectacular, a symphony of destruction visible across 3 star systems. Yet when the barrage ended, the Resilience floated untouched, protected by a shimmering field that had absorbed or redirected every attack. Before the consortium fleet could regroup, a single word echoed through all communication channels: "Enough." Aboard every consortium ship, control systems suddenly locked. Engines powered down, weapons went offline, life support and artificial gravity remained functional, but nothing else responded to commands. A small shuttle launched from the Resilience, making its way directly to June's flagship. Defense systems couldn't target it. Doors opened automatically to admit Admiral Hyun and a small security team onto the command deck. "You could have asked for another meeting," Hyun said calmly, walking toward June, as if taking a casual stroll. "This display was unnecessary." "How?" June demanded, gesturing wildly at his useless controls. 300 ships neutralized by one vessel? Hyun's expression softened slightly. "Did you really believe we spent 5 centuries hiding without developing ways to protect ourselves?" She gestured to one of her officers, who projected a holographic display of the entire consortium fleet. "Your ships are unharmed. Your crews are safe. We've simply to pause them." "You expect me to believe you came in peace when you possess weapons of this magnitude?" June's voice cracked with emotion. "These aren't weapons," Hyun corrected. "If we wanted weapons, your fleet would be dust. These are shields, barriers, protective systems, because humanity's first priority has always been survival." She stepped closer. "Now, shall we discuss peace on more reasonable terms?" 1 month later, representatives from all species, the 7 consortium members and humanity, gathered on a neutral space station. The mood was solemn but hopeful as Elder Pax opened the proceedings. "We stand at a crossroads," her crystalline voice resonated. "For too long, our civilization has been built upon hidden lies and historical revisions. Director Tay has presented evidence that cannot be ignored." Tay stood, activating displays that showed the true historical records he'd painstakingly recovered: the fabricated threat assessments, the orders for genocide, the discovery and subjugation of the Nexus survivors. "Our past cannot be changed," he concluded, "but our future can be chosen." Admiral Hyun spoke next, her uniform exchanged for more formal diplomatic attire. "Humanity does not seek dominion or revenge. We seek recognition, restoration, and assurance that what happened to us will never happen to another developing species." She revealed humanity's true purpose: a network of hidden settlements throughout unexplored space, monitoring developing worlds and protecting them from interference. "While you were determining which species deserved to exist," Hyun explained, "we were ensuring that all had the chance to reach their potential. 12 civilizations now exploring the stars would have been deemed too dangerous under your old prediction models." The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Commander Jun stood, visibly struggling with his pride. "I was wrong," he admitted, "not just about the current situation, but about the fundamental principles that guided the consortium. We claimed to protect galactic stability, but we feared what we didn't understand." 6 months later, on the edge of consortium space, a remarkable structure took shape. The Harmony Institute, the first joint human consortium research facility, extended its gleaming arms toward the stars. Designed to combine the knowledge of all species, it symbolized a new era of cooperation. In an observation lounge, Admiral Hyun and Director Tae watched a shuttle arrive carrying former Nexus colonists. Many had chosen to join human settlements, but others had decided to become cultural ambassadors, helping both sides understand each other. "They adapt quickly," Tae observed, watching human children play with young Luminar, their laughter creating a strange but beautiful harmony. "It's our greatest strength," Hyun replied. "Adaptation, evolution, change." Through the viewport, they could see construction drones adding the final touches to the Institute's central dome. The architecture combined elements from all species: consortium, precision with human creativity, alien functionality with Earth-inspired aesthetics. "I've been thinking about the old stories," Tae said thoughtfully. "The myths about humans that frightened consortium children for generations. Dangerous creatures who could outsmart any trap?" Hyun smiled slightly. "Beings who valued freedom above all else?" "Yes," Tae nodded. "Perhaps the myth of humanity wasn't wrong, just incomplete." Hyun watched as a massive observation window was lifted into place, offering a perfect view of the galaxy beyond. "The stars have room enough for all our stories." In the distance, a human ship and consortium vessel executed a perfectly synchronized patrol route, former enemies now partners, in a fragile but strengthening peace. The legacy of 5 centuries of separation would take time to heal, but each day brought new understanding. The children's laughter echoed again, a sound that had once been absent from consortium spaces. It was, Hyun thought, the most hopeful sound in the universe, proof that even after the darkest history, new beginnings were possible. The end.